Hello, and welcome to the webinar on workforce strategies. Today's webinar is on the area of selection of DSPs, and we're going to focus on the realistic job preview, which sometimes I'm going to refer to as the RJP for short. My name is Chet Cheddar, and I'm going to be walking you through this information today. This webinar isn't just meant for the HR department. It's really meant for anybody in your organization who is involved in the hiring process. Now, you might be watching this video by yourself, or you could be watching it with your other team members. Either way is fine. No, it is important, however, if you are watching it by yourself, that you do have a conversation with your team members regarding the information that you learned today. And so that together you can look at your current hiring strategies in the area of selection and decide if you want to implement the strategy that we talk about today, or if you want to make some changes to your current hiring strategy to meet best practices. Let's go ahead and get started. As you can see, the workforce strategy on selection is the third in a series of 4 webinars on workforce strategies. You can watch these videos in any order, but it might be helpful to watch understanding your data first. By understanding what data to collect and why you're collecting it, it can help you make better decisions about strategies to use to address your workforce issues. In the areas of selection for direct support professionals, or I might say DSPs sometimes, there are 2 main areas that we're addressing in this webinar series. Today's is on the realistic job preview. And sometimes when people think about the realistic job preview, they often think about it as being a promotional video. I know that I did for a long time. But the RJP isn't a promotional video. The RJP is a part of the interview process, and we're going to learn more about that today in regards to why it's a part of the interview process. And in fact, that's one of our learning objectives. We want you to be able to learn when to use it and really understand and be able to identify the important parts of an RJP and understand why and how it affects staff retention. I've also often heard providers say, well, I tell the applicants about the job during the interview, and that's really good, but sometimes it's not enough for a person to really understand what the job's about. So consider that the applicants are sometimes nervous during an interview, and when we're nervous, we aren't always the best listeners. It can make it hard to absorb and comprehend all the information. And being a DSP is really a complicated job. And also consider that people have different learning styles. So if they're an auditory learner, they might do really well being told what the job is all about. But if they're not, they might need some other ways to hear, see, or experience the information. So using a job description and an RJP will increase the chances that the applicant will have a better understanding of what the job is all about. Since you're a person-centered organization, it's important for you to know that the workforce strategies we're sharing with you in recruitment, selection, and retention are all part of Tier 1. They're universal. They can be used for everyone. And specifically in the selection strategies, these definitely are Tier 1 strategies that can be used for all people. So I told you what a realistic job preview isn't. It isn't a promotional video, but what it is the important part here is it's non-distorted information. If you think about a promotional video, you're really only showing the positive parts of an organization so that you're enticing people to be interested. In the realistic job preview, you're really showing the positive and the challenging because you want people to really understand what they might be experiencing as what they might experience as a DSP. The last thing you want people to say is shortly after they've started working that, oh, you didn't tell me that I was going to be doing this. You want people to have a good understanding of what that is before they accept the position. So the other thing is a non-distorted view of the people who are receiving services and their family and friends, and maybe how involved family members are. The people who are providing support. So who are those DSPs that are providing support to the people receiving services? And then the organization or the employer. You want to be able to give them an idea of who you are as an organization and what's important to your mission and your vision. So who is an RJP for? Well, it's for the job applicants. It's for the people who've applied to work for you. They shouldn't really see it before that, but once they've applied, it's a good time to show them the RJP. It's really great to use it for the candidates who are offered a job interview. So that leads into when to use it. Once somebody's been offered a job interview, it's a really great time to show it to them, because you can build some questions into your interview about the RJP. So for example, I've got a couple up here. What are 2 top things in the RJP that stood out to you? Was there anything in the RJP that you didn't realize before, that you're concerned about, or that you wondered about? It's just some really great questions you'll be able to kind of gauge where that individual is in understanding the job or how they're feeling about it. If they have any apprehensions or if they're feeling really confident, you might be able to gauge that through their answers. These might also entice them to ask you some questions that will help them better understand the job. The key thing here is that you always want to show the RJP before there's a job offer. You really want the candidate, the applicant, to get as much information about the job as possible so that they're able to make a decision based upon all the information, or as much as is available for them. So always before the job offer. Why do you want to use an RJP? Well, it can help reduce turnover for staff, and we know that you're all trying to reduce staff turnover. And because the candidate who has an RJP is able to better understand the job that they're accepting, it's more likely that they'll be able to meet your job expectations. There are different ways or methods to deliver an RJP, and many times we think it's a video, but it doesn't have to be. Videos can be expensive, and depending on how you produce it, or they could be low cost and inexpensive with just the use of a smartphone. Some people use photo albums, and that could be virtual or hard copy. One-page descriptions of the people receiving services, and this could include what they're looking for in staff members who would support them, as well as some of their interest and how they like to be supported. It can include tours of the location where the person would be working. And with COVID, perhaps you would do a virtual tour and have that available before the person accepts the job. Discussions with the people who are receiving services or the family members. And before COVID, I would have said, have those in person if possible. And now you may need to have those discussions over Zoom or through another platform such as Zoom. Discussions with the DSPs, again, in person through social distancing or through video. If the person has the opportunity to volunteer for your organization before they are offered a job or accept a job. Sometimes through internships. Many college students or high school students might have an internship with you, or it could be a combination of any of these. Can you think of any other ideas? So what to include in an RJP? There are 7 different main categories of things that we should include in an RJP. The first starts with activities of the job. So what are those job duties? You want to make this specific to your organization. The location of the job. Include this so people will understand where they're going to be working. And it's critical to include the people who are receiving services and supports. At the end of the day, if the candidate isn't comfortable with people with disabilities, it isn't going to work out for them to work for your organization. People who are providing supports, such as DSPs, really need to be a part of the RJP. It's important that their voice is heard, that the people who are actually doing the job are able to share what the job is really like, the great parts, the day-to-day routine, and the things that are challenging for them. So what to include in an RJP? Sometimes the job applicant doesn't realize when services are being provided. So this is an opportunity to talk about all the shifts. You might have early mornings, overnights, evenings, weekends, weekdays, also including wages. This may be information that would date if you're doing a video. So you might want to be intentional about where you put it in the RJP in case you need to change it later, or you might decide to include a wage range for the hourly wage, or you may just say that they receive an hourly wage and then what are those benefits that are available to them, such as holiday, sick days, is there flexible spending accounts available? What about health insurance, long, short-term disability insurance? Those are all great things for people to know. And then of course, the mission, vision, and values of the organization needs to be included in the RJP. We're going to take a little trip to this website. There's a really great workforce toolkit on the Anchor website. And you don't have to be a member of Anchor to access this tool. So we'll just take a minute and get to that website. Okay, so this is the homepage for Anchor, and it stands for American Network of Community Options and Resources. And it's really a community of providers who are supporting individuals with developmental disabilities. So on this homepage, if we go to resources, I'm going to click on that. And then we scroll down a little bit and we go to DSP Toolkit. All right, this is the page that you really want to be familiar with. There's lots of good information on here. We're not going to cover all of it today, but it's a great resource for you. So this is an area that you're going to want to check out as far as some resources available in regards to COVID. There is a video about being a DSP, maybe changing careers during this time of COVID, and some other information that would be helpful for you. I'm just going to kind of keep going down to this section. In other webinars, we address the public service announcements, the recruiting flyers, the interview guidelines. Please do take some time to look at the DSP turnover calculator if you haven't. This is really helpful to help you figure out what it really costs you to, every time a staff leaves your organization and you have to rehire and refill that position. And then this is what we're really going for right here is a realistic job preview. Let's click on. And if we go down here, a couple things. First is the realistic job preview is available for free for a short time. And I don't have the ending date on that. But if you click on this link, and we're going to watch the video in a minute, and you enter the password, hashtag RJP 2020, you're going to be able to secure that video and you can use that for your organization as long as that's available for free. That's a bonus that ANCOR has provided for organizations during this time of COVID. Now, if you scroll down a little bit further, here's just a trailer to RJP. This is just like a 1.5 minute preview. So if you wanted to show it to others, you could definitely do that if you only had a short amount of time. But we've got enough time, and we are going to come up here and we're going to watch this realistic job preview. It's about 15 minutes, so we'll just take our time. And afterwards, I have some questions for you in regards to things that you learned during that, during this RJP. I'm already plugged in. So here we go.
ANCOR stands for the American Network of Community Options and Resources. Since 2001, ANCOR has promoted our national advocacy campaign, which is all about retaining and recruiting a qualified, committed, compassionate direct support workforce. Without direct support professionals, we would not be able to offer people with disabilities the life and the communities that they deserve. It's not an easy job. It's not a job for the faint of heart, but it is a job for people who are creative, who really love helping people. So thank you for taking the time to watch this video. Please watch it carefully. After watching it, you may come to the conclusion that this isn't the right job for you, but you may decide that this is the beginning of what's going to be a wonderful career.
This program shows direct support professionals serving people with intellectual and developmental disabilities in a variety of settings, offering you a chance to learn about the work involved in direct support and judge for yourself if you're interested in pursuing a career in supporting people with disabilities. It's important to know the realities about direct support work prior to employment because it increases chances that you'll select a job that you'll do well and enjoy. Your commitment to the people you support will be enhanced, as will your professionalism and self-esteem on the job. Direct support professionals play many roles. They work as advisors, companions, chauffeurs, cooks, teachers, and assistants, to name a few. A primary purpose of direct support professionals is to assist people who need support to lead productive lives and to participate fully in their communities. Many people find direct support work stimulating, challenging, and fulfilling. Others do not. There's no right or wrong decision, only what is a good fit for you.
You're getting paid to help people get to where they want to be, which is awesome. It's a great thing to be able to help people personally grow.
Direct support professionals provide supports in a variety of settings. Some work primarily in residential settings, such as group homes. Others support people living in their own homes and apartments. DSPs also provide assistance at places of employment and elsewhere in the community. In any setting, your role will require flexibility, creativity, and commitment.
You never really know when you go to work what's going to happen.
Things like assisting with showering, med administration, mealtime, stuff like laundry.
Money management, your cooking, your cleaning, basic individual cares. A huge part of this job is articulating exactly what you did, how you did it, who you did it with, what time it happened.
You have to make sure that you read all the documentation and all the communication logbook that will tell you what's happened throughout the day, so then you know what's going on.
The support provided by direct support professionals is not caretaking, but rather assisting people in making their own decisions and helping themselves.
But I've learned since I've been here that it's important to listen, to know what their needs are instead of making the choices myself as to what I might think is good for them.
As a direct support professional, you may work with children or adults with a wide range of support needs.
You gotta be very social, very upbeat, very positive.
The people that live here expect us to make sure that they're safe. They expect us to make sure that they're happy and clean and content and living normal lives.
And at the beginning, it can be very frightening and overwhelming to someone who's not used to that environment.
Sometimes it's a little stressful. It can be, very demanding. Sometimes it's hard work.
Our direct support people get very good at observation and picking up signals, nonverbal signals. And they know when something's different, often very quickly.
You're not just there to take care of maybe the medical needs of the person, but you're trying to get them involved in things going out in the world. You're trying to help them expand their world and find out what they're good at.
Lori is a dynamic woman who likes to stay busy. She loves being out in the community. She loves people. She's very social, very, very social. And she can get around by herself, and she's very independent.
And I'm starting my own pottery business right now, too.
The two guys that I work with out here, they're both in their 50s, and one of the gentlemen uses a wheelchair, and another fellow uses a walker. I'm giving the guys general, physical assistance, and also in the community. It's been a pretty good fit.
Albert is perceived as a great worker. The customers know him. They always compliment him on the work he's doing. If he's mopping the floor, they'll say, wow, great job.
Like Teresa, she has her own apartment. That's different from more traditional group homes is because it's just Teresa here. We can get up and go whenever she wants to. She's my boss. She tells me that I need to go to the bank, I need to go to the grocery store, or I want to go out to eat tonight.
The important thing for DSPs to remember is that this is their home. We are there to work with the person, not giving orders to a person.
New direct support professionals often receive training on a variety of topics through an initial orientation, but the learning is ongoing.
You really start learning the job and how to apply the training once you're out in the field working with people.
We have a lot of training that is put before new staff. When I changed careers, I was amazed and actually a little bit overwhelmed how much there was to learn and to know.
Many direct support professionals find their work challenging, fulfilling, and immensely rewarding.
I've been here for 2.5 years, and every day I come to work, I still learn something new.
Just feeling that sense of fulfillment. I don't know another job or another career as a professional that can replace that.
We have fun. It's not work. Like you think of work, you're like, oh, I have to go to work today. I come to work and I'm like, oh, I wonder what fun things we're gonna do today. I wonder what they're gonna show me. Like, what are they gonna tell me about their day? I love making a difference in their lives.
And I think what I'm able to do for them, they do for me in threefold.
When we're out in the community, I introduce them as my friends. These are my friends.
I love working with the individuals. They depend on me, I depend on them. Making sure that they are a part of the community, that's what makes me feel good at the end of the day, to know that I made a difference.
Working as a direct support professional can be challenging. You will have the responsibility of ensuring the safety and well-being of those you support, and your job expectations will be demanding and ever-evolving.
Safety is pretty important, especially when nobody here can really say when something is wrong with them. We have to feel for them. We have to know when something is wrong with them.
What I find most challenging is some of the behaviors.
Yeah! You have to know how to not take anything personal. As far as, if you've upset somebody and they're going to yell at you or whatever, you can't take that personal.
something that we take for granted every day is an issue for some of the individuals, and to be compassionate and understanding and listening.
The most interesting challenge is trying to connect with people in a way where you aren't superior to them and you aren't imposing your methods or your beliefs upon them, but at the same time, you need to help them realize that they have to get things done, and you need to help them keep schedules and help them be presentable.
I think the most challenging is when there's a lot of activities going on and making sure that you get everybody where they're supposed to be at the right times.
The most difficult part, I'll say, is working with some people that you just can't get along with.
Sometimes the staff, the other staff that you work with, aren't as motivated as you. They don't think out of the box.
For my coworkers, I expect everybody to be a team player. We have the individual or the people we serve at the center. It's a team of people around them, not just DSPs, but we have program coordinators, DD case managers, residential managers, and all those people that make up their team.
Another challenge for direct support professionals and the people supported is the high rate of staff turnover. The relationships you develop on the job matter greatly to those around you.
You're very important to the individual you serve because of the relationship. It's giving that individual the assurance that you care for them and you're going to be there on a daily basis or when you're needed.
You really fall in love with the job and with the people, and it's hard in a sense to separate boundaries at some points because they become, the people that you support become like your family members.
When staff come and go, sometimes I get like attached to somebody, and it kind of gets me upset.
I actually see Teresa more than my regular family. And that does, sometimes that line does blur between where you work and where you live.
Working successfully as a direct support professional requires a combination of personal qualities, including honesty, integrity, and respect for the people you support. Advanced training and years of experience are not essential, but it is important that you like people and are committed to helping those you support in living rich, fulfilling lives as members of their communities.
You have to be on your feet, and you got to be able to communicate with people.
Patience, reliability, dedication, and responsibility.
You have to be very patient, you have to be understanding, you have to be caring.
The kind of person who would make a really good DSP is the person who comes to work and is 100% focused on the people that we support.
You need to be creative and try to key into what the person likes to do.
People that I work with, I am finding that they are far more independent and capable at times, and I'm learning to step back to see what it is that they are able to do for themselves and to encourage them so that they can make the next step towards their independence.
A good DSP is willing to learn new things, willing to accept the change that might come along with someone maybe they don't know very well, willing to just kind of go with it and be open-minded.
A great DSP is the person that's willing to show up every day and treat every day as an opportunity to help someone enjoy their life.
Some days we have our driver's hat on, sometimes we have our cook hat on, and you've got to come not with one specific skill, but ready to develop new skills as well.
You got to enjoy what you do.
And you have to keep your attitude positive, even when all things around you are going downhill. You have to try to keep positive.
We have to have people that we trust to be in our house when we're not here and things.
We expect a DSP to be dependable and punctual and on time with Kayla, and I would like them to be as patient with her as I am.
A professional in this field is someone who treats the individuals that they're supporting with respect, with honor, with dignity. And I think that's why professional is there in the title.
Confidentiality is very important, from closing doors to talking quietly in the office, not in front of other individuals.
You're not going to ever get respect from the people that we support unless you show respect.
This type of job is not right for everyone. You have to make sure that you're not selfish and that you're willing to give your whole heart.
People that wouldn't do well in this job are people that have short temper.
If you come in to work with a bad attitude, or you don't leave your home life at home if something bad is happening, I think that definitely is their attitude then. They really pick that up. Anybody would.
The kind of person who shouldn't be working in a job like this is the person who thinks that they can come in and use this sort of job as an opportunity to slack off instead of actually engaging with the people.
And if you're not willing to be a team player and you're not willing to speak up and advocate for ideas and advocate for individuals and their rights, then, this is not the job for you.
You have to love people. You have to have a heart. You just can't come in for a paycheck. Because you do that, you're not gonna like it. You're just gonna leave.
Working as a direct support professional can be a rewarding, fulfilling career. Consider carefully the responsibilities and expectations of this job and decide if it is a good fit for you.
Now that you've watched the full-length RJP, in a moment I'm going to ask you to stop the video and answer the following questions. Starting out with, what did you learn from the RJP? What were 2 job duties you learned about? What did they address the work schedule or the wages? What does staff enjoy about being a DSP? What does staff find challenging about being a DSP? What did you learn about the mission, vision, and values of the organization? What's one thing you learned about the people who are receiving services? If you're watching this video alone, go ahead and write down your answers and save them for a discussion with your team later on. If you're watching this with others, you can have a group discussion on these questions. So go ahead and stop the video, and when you're ready, restart the video. So the benefits of the realistic job preview. The benefits are really the why to do an RJP. Candidates understand the job expectations better before starting the job. Have you had a staff who started a job and then quickly quit, and then when you asked them why they were leaving, they said they really didn't understand what the job was really going to be like, and it wasn't a match for them. The candidate can make a better decision about accepting a job and may be able to identify areas of the job that they might need a little extra help, rather support and training in by watching an RJP. Lastly, the candidate can select out. If they know the job isn't for them, they can either withdraw their application or to decline the job offer. It's easier and less expensive to not hire a person than to hire the wrong person and and have them leave early, or your need to have them leave early after taking the job. So the other why of why you do a realistic job preview is because it really does affect retention. And the data, the survey quoted below it showed that RJPs can improve retention rates by 9 to 17%. So in the study that's cited below, it showed that for organizations that already had a 12% annual retention rate, they increased their retention by 50%. So they went from 24% retention to 24% retention. For organizations who already had a 24% annual retention rate, and then they used the RJP, their retention increased by 20%. So that's a good reason to use an RJP, so you can increase your retention. Now that you know the whys of it, let's go ahead and start looking at the important parts of the realistic job preview. And again, saying this is really a part, and a very important part of the structured behavioral interview process. And we're going to break down those steps for you right now. We have 6 steps that we're going to talk through today, and we're going to start with gathering information. So with gathering information, you want to start out with who can provide the most accurate picture of the job of a DSP. Well, those are the people who are receiving services and their families, direct support professionals themselves, frontline supervisors, and is there anybody else in your organization who really understands the job that could give an accurate picture? Another important part in gathering information is really looking at the scope of the work. And when you look at the graphic on the right, this is a representation of the many roles that a DSP plays, oftentimes plays. Some might not apply to your specific positions, but they will apply to many of them. So sometimes the DSP acts as a personal trainer. Sometimes they're the chauffeur. Sometimes there is a dietitian. They're making menus and making meals, and they're encouraging people to eat well. They might be a counselor. They might be doing range of motion or other physical therapist type roles where they might be doing the physical therapy plan. Occupational therapist, psychologist, nurse, maybe passing medications, and then teacher, many times teaching new skills or teaching people to retain skills. The people who are receiving services in their family, as well as the DSPs, can share specific experiences that they encounter on a day-to-day basis. That's really important to know what those things are. The hours that a DSP works, evenings, weekends, early mornings, overnights, during the day, and then is there any flexibility? And if there is, share this on the RJP. And then lastly, you'll want to prepare the people regarding what they will share in the RJP. So if they're going to be interviewed, letting people know we want you to talk about the challenging parts of the job. We want you to talk about the hours, and giving people an opportunity to kind of have a rehearsal, if you will. Definitely not putting words in their mouth. That's not what I'm saying at all, but giving them the opportunity to prepare for the questions that you would be asking. It's critical that you talk about the essential functions of the job as well. We know that being a DSP can be physically demanding, and that the job candidates need to know this before they accept the job. If they're going to be supporting people with challenging behaviors or actions, they need to know this too. Are they going to be helping people with personal cares, getting dressed or undressed, in the bathroom, taking a shower or a bath? Are they going to be required to help people transfer, maybe in and out of wheelchairs or into Hoyer lifts? So some lifting required. Will they need to do any lifting as a part of their job, like picking up groceries and those sorts of things? Standing, walking, bending, stooping, all of those physical demands. It's important for people to know ahead of time so that they can make a best decision, and even ask some questions about, well, tell me about that. What is it really like? How much lifting will I need to do? So they can get a better idea if they're going to be a good match for your job. And then think about what's unique. What are the unique issues, circumstances, or other differences that DSPs encounter, maybe at certain locations. And it could be the characteristics of the people served, It could be how involved friends or family are. It could be vehicle use, maybe for people who are, that you're supporting in their work in the community or in their neighborhood. Maybe they take the bus to work. But if you are supporting somebody in, let's say, a shared living home or residential home, it could be that there's a company van or a car that the staff members use. Or are the staff members expected to use their own vehicle? So having that discussion is really important. The location of the work environment, you know, where will they be working? And then what's unique about this organization? What sets you apart from other organizations that are like you? This is really your time to shine and let people know why they should come work for you. What sets you apart? What makes you different from your neighbors down the street? Other part of gathering information is you really want to be able to have a section in there regarding pay and benefits. What sort of training will they get? Not only what are some of those topics, but also what's the length of the training? How much training will they get? And is it going to be in person or online? A little bit about how that is going to work. And then how can they advance themselves? Is this a position they can take, and are there some opportunities to continue working in their career and have some advancement opportunities? And then lastly, but not least, is how do you recognize employees? Letting them know that perhaps you've got a recognition dinner once a year, or you give out particular awards, or that you highlight staff members in your newsletters. Whatever your organization does, let people know how you do that. All right, now that you have all that information, it's time to summarize it. So when you're summarizing, you want to think about what are some themes that have emerged from the information that you gathered. How can and will you use themes to discover the ways that you develop your RJP? And then what will be essential in your message? What are those critical things that you want to make sure you share in your RJP? After you've summarized your information, you need to select a strategy and a method. So I want you to think about which of these three basic RJPs, realistic job preview methods, will you use to deliver your message and why? So are you going to use something visual, such as a video or photo album? Are you going to use a tour of the work site? Or are you going to be using face-to-face interviews? Or maybe a combination of these? You really want to ask yourself, what's the best method for our organization? You watch the RJP that was developed by Anchor, and there are others available. What does your competition do for RJPs? Do you know what other providers do for RJPs? And what can you do to make yours better? Second is, will you preview and evaluate other RJP products to see what you like and what would be a good fit? And that is really important to do, is spend some time looking at what others are doing and taking their very best ideas. So I would like you to think about which you would look at, which you would kind of preview. And then once you select a method, we want you to think about the 5 key characteristics of a effective RJP. And it starts with the information really needs to be credible. Be clear about the purpose with everyone involved. And as you make decisions, be prepared by working through all the information that you've gathered and customized on how you deliver it. I'm sorry, I kind of ran those two together, so I'm going to restate that. Be clear about the purpose with everybody who is involved. So again, most people might think that an RJP, if you're filming, is only a promotional type video, but letting them know that it is okay to talk about the challenging parts of the job, if that's what you're looking for specifically from them. Letting them know that this is going to be used for individuals who are applying for the position as a DSP, and that you're hoping that it's going to show them a clearer picture of what the job is really like. That can help people really understand what you're trying to do and how they can help you. So second, be prepared by working through all the information that you've gathered and customize it. Next is have a balance of information. Share the good parts, the challenging, along with information such as when shifts are available, wages, and kind of those day-to-day routine things about the job. Share about who their coworkers are. If people are working solo, you want to talk about that. If they're working with a team, it's important to talk about that as well. And then the RJP is shared with the job candidate during the job interview. I know I've said that before. Before the job, it always needs to be shared before the job is offered. And the purpose is for the potential employees to really understand what the job is all about before they accept the position. So you need to think about what method of delivery you want and what will work best for your organization. So which RJP method is going to work for you? And who's going to lead the effort in an RJP, and who's going to support the RJP process? It's going to be really important that somebody's assigned to lead this. Somebody's in charge, somebody can make decisions, and that you know who else is going to be involved in various parts of doing the RJP. It's typically not something that can be done alone, but it's better done by a team. And then what type of support? I mean, that person who's leading is really kind of the orchestrator of the RJP. And then what supports do you have from your organization? Does your CEO or director not only philosophically support the RJP, but also is there financial support for your doing an RJP? Those are important things to know. So the next step in developing the RJP is the implementation and evaluation. So let's take a look at that. You need to create an action plan as a team. So you want to think about what's the strategy and the method? What's your timeline? When do you want to start it? And when do you hope to have it done and ready to use? Will there be somebody who kind of does a beta test or takes a look at it and gives you some feedback before you start using it consistently? And have that in your timeline. That's going to be really helpful for you. And think about who those people are that you want to test it. Who's going to implement and support the project? What are the barriers you anticipate? Financial support, human resources, thinking about DSPs who want to be a part of it. How will DSPs get involved without adding additional hours to the schedule or taking them away from their shift, providing direct support? All important things to consider. And then lastly, how will you evaluate its success? When will you measure its effectiveness in the areas of turnover or even overtime? Developing the RJP, next step is the review and update. The RJP isn't something that you do and then you don't look at it again for 10 years. It's something that needs to be reviewed and updated on a regular basis. So it reflects your organization and who you are today. After you've used the RJP for a while, you're going to want to take a look at it to see if anything has changed in your area of retention. So do a survey. Did the RJP help new staff have a better idea of what the job was like? What about the RJP helped them to better understand the job? What was missing? Ask the staff members who've been there for a while if they noticed a difference in how the new hires understand the job. If yes, what got better about that? What did they understand better? If not, what do they think is missing and needs to be presented in a more effective way? Did implementing the RJP affect your retention? That's one of the most important things right there. So have a schedule for reviewing and updating your RJP on a regular basis. Now that you have all the steps for developing an RJP, it's time to write them into your action plan. And let's review an action plan quickly here. So one of the first things is developing the steps in developing and implementing the RJP. So what are the things you need to do or will need to get done? The second is who's responsible for each of those steps. And that might vary according to people's skills and timelines, those sorts of things. Target a start date and a completion date. And different steps might have different deadlines or target dates on that. So be realistic. And with doing an RJP, it really is orchestrating a project that may definitely have some different start dates based upon the step. And then what are the resources that you need? Not only financial, but with human resources and maybe some other things that you need. Maybe you want all of the staff members who are in the RJP to have a staff t-shirt on or polo. Really up to you and figuring out which are the resources that will make sense for your organization. And then in that evaluation, you really want to look at how will you know when the RJP is done to the quality that you desire? What will you use as your measuring stick? How will you know the RJP is effective? And how will you keep it fresh and relevant? So my question for you is, does your organization currently use an RJP? And if so, this activity, part 1, is for you. We want you to take a closer look at your RJP. We'd like you to answer these questions. So if you have an RJP, does it include all the important components that we talked about? Are there some things that are missing or that could be added or communicated in a different way? Does it need to be updated? Is there communication about the organization's mission, vision, and values? Does that shine? Do you see that in the RJP? Were DSPs, frontline supervisors, and people who receive service involved in developing it? And what feedback do DSPs, frontline supervisors, and people who receive services, what feedback have they given you about that RJP? So if you have an RJP, what I'd like you to do is stop the video and answer those questions. If you don't currently have an RJP, please go to the next slide. So activity part 2, if you're an organization that does not currently use an RJP, but you're considering it, I'd like you to answer the following questions. And again, if you're working by yourself on this video, write down your answers so that you're able to share your thoughts with your team members later on. So starting with, what method would work best for your organization? What are the important messages the organization wants to communicate? Who would be involved in developing it? Who would be involved in implementing it? What resources are needed? And what's a target date for getting started and then implementing it? When you're done, go ahead and restart the video. Activity number 3 is for those organizations that have an RJP or you plan to update it. For organizations who don't have an RJP but decided to develop one. First, look at the goal of your action plans and decide where the RJP is in its priority. And then add your RJP to your action plan. We know you have other actions on this plan, so we want you to prioritize where it fits in. Again, there are steps that you need to include, and those are, what are the actual steps in developing and implementing an RJP? Who's responsible? The target start date and completion date, identifying your resources, and then how and when will you evaluate the outcome of the RJP. Before you add to your action plan, go ahead and finish this video. On the top of the page, these are the resources that I wanted to share with you. On the top of the page is the website for the Anchor Toolkit, and that's one that we saw today. And that's where the RJP is that you can have for free for a short amount of time. And the preview that's on there is always available. The second is an RJP through a group in New York that you might want to use as a look at as an example. Third is the staff recruitment and retention training strategies for human services organizations by Larson and Hewitt, and they're out of the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota. And that website there will take you to a free download of this book. And you can either copy, download and print off the entire book, or you can download it by chapter. And there is one chapter that the RJP is talked about quite a lot. And then last, a new resource from the Minnesota Department of Human Services is Recruitment and Retention in Supports for Minnesotans with Disabilities, an assessment guide and toolkit by Dan Baker. And the website is there. And this is a tool you want to definitely take a look at and see if it would be helpful for you in your selection and hiring process. Just want to remind you about the website for the Minnesota Positive Supports. As you can see, we've got an area for training materials. Feel free to check that out and see if there's something there that can help you as you're developing your plans for being a more person-centered organization. Just a reminder that the APBS conference will be in March of 2021. And at this point, I think they're planning to do a virtual conference, but that's still kind of in the works, and we'll see what comes of that. So go ahead and check their website for more information. And then last, I want to thank you so much for your time and for participating in today's webinar. If you have questions about today's information, please contact your University of Minnesota Person-Centered and Positive Supports team member. This material has been brought to you by the Institute on Community Integration at the University of Minnesota and the Minnesota Department of Human Services. Again, thank you very much, and please go back and finish your action plan. Good luck, everyone.